Okay, welcome to our second installment of the lick breakdown series. Today, instead of just a single lick, we'll be looking at a whole chorus of a blues in the key of G by the great jazz guitar player Pat Martino. As always, if you are a guitar player, this certainly applies, but anybody could get something out of this no matter what instrument you play. This is from a tune called A Blues for Mickey O. And this is on his first record as a leader, which is El Hombre. I'll link to that below. I suggest you listen to the whole solo, but we're just going to take a look at this one chorus. If you're new to jazz improvisation, this might be a great one for you to check out because it's a great combination of both playing the changes that are there, so learning how to really outline what's going on in the changes, and also playing some pretty simple pentatonic blues type ideas over this. So let's jump right in. Okay, in the first measure, we're playing over the G7 chord, okay? And he plays just a really simple idea, just coming straight out of the blues scale, pentatonic scale kind of a thing, okay? So throughout the solo, you're gonna see there's a lot of sliding into notes from a half step away. So we do get chromatic neighbor tones happening, but the very first idea he plays over that first chord just sounds like this. Okay, very simple little pentatonic blues idea. Okay, from there, we get the first kind of more interesting choice that's going to actually outline a little bit more of what's happening in the chord. And he actually superimposes over the 4 chord, the C7, an arpeggio, and he's going to play an F major 7 arpeggio over that. Now you see this in a lot of Pat Martino's playing where he's taking an arpeggio from another chord and superimposing it on top of a different chord. Okay, so this is going to be just over a C7 type sound, and this is what the line sounds like. Okay, so that leads us into the G7 in the next phrase, but let's look at what's going on there. The starting note is a G, so that's just the 5th of the C7 chord. From there, though, this is where we come down the F major 7 arpeggio, and what we get is an E. Okay, now over the C7 chord, the E is going to be the 3rd. The C is going to be the root, obviously. The A, which would be the 3rd of the F major 7 chord, in this case is going to function as the 13 or the 6 of the C7 chord, okay? And then we get an F. Now that's going to drop us down from there to the first note of the next measure, which is going to be over a G7. That's the 13 of that chord. So one more time, here's that arpeggio. It's going to sound like this. Okay? And all of that is over that sound, okay, with the C7. From there, we're back on the 1 chord. Now, I'll play the whole line with the F major 7 arpeggio from the bar before to lead us into it so you can hear it in context, and then we'll talk about what's happening there. Okay, that's what that's going to sound like. Okay, so on that line, he slides into the 13 or the E over the G7 chord. He plays the 5th. Okay, then root, A, which is the 9, F, which is the flat 7 of that dominant chord, the G7 chord. Okay, so right there, I have it marked, you'll see on the transcription, as a G mixolydian type idea. I don't know if Pat was thinking, that mode as he was playing over that, actually thinking mixolydian, or if he was just thinking in terms of the chord tones that were there and the color tones. But if we're thinking of it in a scale term, that's what we're going to see there, okay? So I'll play that whole thing one more time coming from the F major 7 arpeggio in the bar before. Okay, really effective little line over that gives us some nice color tones and also the important notes that are in the chord. The next measure, we've got a D minor 7 going to a G7. Okay, that's a 2-5 that's going to turn us around into the 4 chord again when we get to the 5th bar. But over that, he has this nice little double stop thing that happens. Okay, so he's sliding into the E right here while keeping the C stationary on the top. Okay, so and we get this really nice little bluesy double stop type line. If you're not a guitar player, if you're a horn player, you can't do that, both of those notes together at the same time. That line would work just as well, played just like that. Okay, so really simple, but really effective. And you hear that all throughout this album and throughout his playing, these really nice little kind of double stop type lines. Okay, so now over the C7 chord, the first thing he does just lands right on the root, okay? And then we have another line that really just comes from the G blues scale. So the line after that we get, okay? So that all is just really coming out of, the G minor pentatonic G blues scale type of idea, but the notes that he's playing over that do give us some really great notes over that chord. So we get the root, flat 7, 5, the 4, the 11, the 9, and the root, okay? So very simple idea. Again, straight out of the blues, straight out of the pentatonic scale, but fits really nicely over that chord before we move now back to the 1 chord. And here he's really gonna outline what's going on inside of the G7 chord. As we step into the next measure, we're back on the 1 chord again, back on the G7, okay? And in this measure, he just strictly outlines the chord. So what we get is only notes that are in that G7 chord, except for another slide. So we're just coming in from a little neighbor here on the B flat, and we're gonna slide twice into the 3rd of the G7 chord. And then we're gonna play that. So what I get there, 3rd, 3rd, root, 5th, flat 7, root again, okay? Really, really simple, but clearly says to us, there's that G7 chord. If I had just played some sort of pentatonic idea there over that, it wouldn't have given us the 3rd of the chord, right? So we wouldn't really be defining playing that change. And so, okay, it's very simple, but really effective, really nicely phrased little line there over the G7 chord, okay? Now from here, for the rest of the solo, basically, we're back to some pentatonic, blues-based type of ideas, okay? So we get, okay, so other than those little slides, all of those notes there, we're just back to some bluesy type pentatonic ideas again that are gonna work really well over those chords. Now you could look at them though as well as in relation to the chords that they're being played over, even though they're all coming from the pentatonic scale, to really understand why they work. So when we're playing over that E7 chord, the E7 sharp 9, right? We're getting some G's in there. That's going to be the sharp 9. Okay. We're getting the B flat. That's actually the flat 5 against that chord. Okay. And as we go through the other changes there, I'd encourage you to look at how does that work against that chord, even though it's the blues scale. What are those sounds in relation to the chord that's happening? That's always a great way to be thinking as you're looking at playing over a blues like this is, can I not only just play blues ideas, but can I really understand why these notes work against these chords? And then also, how do I actually play the changes so it sounds like if I took the underlying chords away, I could still hear the changes going by in my solo. Okay, so this is a really great record. I'd encourage you to check it out, listen to the whole thing. Pat is just an incredible player. He also has a really incredible story. And so we won't get into that here, but a really, really amazing journey in his playing and some challenges that he had along the way. So I'd highly encourage you, if you haven't checked out a lot of info about Pat Martino, to give that all a look. But let's hear one more time the whole thing in context, and then head to the link below and listen to the whole record, listen to this chorus as he plays it on the record, and have a good time taking a look at what's going on in this solo. Have a good one.